A new initiative looks to address rapid growth in Arizona and how that growth will impact things like water, power, and land availability over the next 15 to 20 years. To learn more, we welcome Mark Stapp, Director of ASU's Masters in Real Estate Development, and economist Jim Rounds of Rounds Consulting Group. Good to see you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Mark, we'll start with you. This initiative, what's this all about? Is it basically, we're going to grow, we better figure out how to do it right?
Yeah, I think to some degree that's what it is, Ted. We realize the fact that we are having significant economic opportunity, and the development of the semiconductor industry, we were just talking about these things, are great, right? We're projected to grow by about 1 million people in the next 10 years. We are facing a number of constraints to our growth that we've never had to face before. And they're causing us to, I think we're going to have to begin making some trade-offs, choices about not if we're going to grow, but how we're going to grow, what that might look like.
Jim, some of those constraints, what are you talking about here?
Yeah, so when Mark called about an event that he was going to have, and he was talking about, let's look at these things, I was excited because we already started looking at a couple of specific ones. And so we've been doing a little bit of research for the Board of Regents related to the fact that our long-term forecast for economic growth, job growth in the state isn't going to be met with the current production of trained workers plus what we bring in. So we need to step it up. And the difference between that optimistic forecast and the reality is going to equate to tens of billions of dollars in tax revenues over a longer period of time. So that's one of them. Energy is also a major issue where we're not going to be able to hit our growth projections unless we step up and we start catching up there. So the fact that Mark wanted to look at a lot of different things and really bring attention to the fact that we need to manage growth longer term instead of just short term, it was very intriguing, and I was interested in participating.
When you talk about power, I mean, we've had people on the program talk about nuclear energy needs to be looked at again, maybe even smaller reactors, more localized reactors, something that no one had ever thought of. Is this what you're talking about here? Those kinds of things that might be needed in the future?
Yeah, that is part of it, Ted. So I'm going to put this in context, right? 1 million people. The city of Tucson's about 1 million people. Tulsa, Oklahoma is about 1 million people. So what we're saying in the next 10 years, we've got to take the entire city of Tucson and put it here. We have had a growth pattern that has been free to expand relatively easily without a lot of constraints. We are bumping up against those. We talk about water a lot. Power is one of them. The available land that is developable is one of them. And it's beginning to push us inward. But we don't have development policies, and we don't have a development pattern that is used to that kind of constrained development. So the question is, how are we going to handle this?
How are we going to handle this?
Well, I think we go through each of these items and we find a solution. So available land.
Yes.
Ourselves and some others are looking at an overhaul of the state land department so that they can be properly funded and they can respond more quickly to market demand. Related to energy, there's going to be some specific recommendations. Related to the workforce, we're going to have to reinvest. But the great thing is, and we've talked about positive ROI before on your show, is that most of these things can be done without a massive cost increase to taxpayers. In fact, in many cases, the state taxpayers make money from the investment. They don't lose money. So if we do it right and we think long enough ahead of time, then it'll be done, because if you get behind on these things, it costs too much to catch up.
I think land availability kind of raises some eyebrows too, because people don't want to see, the push outward. They don't want to see the desert spoiled and these sorts of things. And some land, I would think, would be so difficult to get water and power to that it would not return much on that particular investment. Is there enough available land for Tulsa to move to Arizona?
And if you take the development pattern that we've historically had, which was relatively low density, I mean, like 70% of the land is designated for single-family residential development, detached. I don't think we can accommodate the growth that's projected by maintaining that development pattern. Because we know that some of the land doesn't have the water. You're not going to be able to feasibly get power to it. It becomes disconnected from the workforce. The workforce is changing, right? What that workforce needs and wants in order to be a productive workforce is changing. And it's not necessarily the same location, or type of development that they want. There's a number of these factors.
Yeah, to talk more about the workforce. I know this is a big deal with you as far as an available workforce, people that are ready and trained, ready to go as far as high-tech industries and these sorts of things. What do we need to do? Are we on the right trajectory here, or do we need to really kind of pull up the bootstraps and get this done?
Well, related to projects like TSMC that are just massive, community colleges, universities, everybody stepped up and started working towards that. But the state's much bigger than a single business, even one as big as TSMC. And so we have demands across the board. And it's not just we need more bachelor's degrees or we need more technical degrees. That's the debate that most people have. We need that high school person to graduate that otherwise wouldn't. We need the high school graduate to maybe get an advanced degree. We need everybody to do better. We need to take advantage of every opportunity we can to have the quality workforce to maintain the current momentum, because I don't think people realize how much our economic momentum has shifted just since the COVID recession, and it shifted massively even before that, going back to post-Great Recession.
And you need specialized schools for specialized talents and specialized skills.
That's right. And we're probably going to have to see a little bit of reform at the universities. We're going to have to see a change in the way the different workforce groups work together. I can name 10 different workforce groups that might be working on the exact same thing. We have to collaborate a little bit more. And the good thing is that all this stuff is interrelated, which makes it seem more complicated. But the fact that it's interrelated means that there's a story to be told, and there is a solution. We just have to get policymakers and the other participants to want to coordinate.
How much, though, Mark, does that story change with water? Because if the drought continues in similar patterns, if the next compact, Colorado River Water Compact, goes completely sideways as far as Arizona is concerned, does that change the narrative?
Well, listen, it's the narrative today, right? So it's not going to change it. The question is, we're not quite sure what the ultimate solution is yet. It's a known known, and it's a known known that has a variety of potential solutions. The thing that we do know is that not all of the land that we look at and think that could be developed will be developable. And that changes patterns, right? It changes patterns in a number of different ways. We've got to get all of this in a regional context to work together. So we're matching where people live, where they work, employment opportunities, quality of life. Part of this affects substantially attainability and affordability of housing. The more you constrain and the less we have that development pattern we're so used to, the harder it is to have affordable housing. That affects the employment sector significantly.
Last question here. Running out of time, but I want to get this last question in because you referred to it. Is there the political will to even look at something like this initiative?
There will be when the politicians see the extent that we could lose economic growth if we don't take action versus the gain that we'll have with being proactive. I think sometimes you have to show people the numbers, the extra jobs, the extra tax revenues that then pay for these things. I think we have to do a little bit more math and explain things in more detail.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about, is creating a context for this dialogue.
All right, Mark Stapp, Jim Rounds, a couple of economists here talking about the future of Arizona, and it's coming, and it's going pretty fast. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here. Thank you.